Hey there, how's it going, guys? Today we're gonna be building a simple mini search list app that, depending on the user input, it will print out the list or the specified car brand as an output. Then the user would have to click on the desired brand, which will redirect him to the brand's official website. Okay, so let's try an example. So I think you can just type A, it gives you this whole list of items that has the letter A. So you can just click on one of them, for example, Cadillac or Maserati, whatever, and it just redirects you to the official website. Okay, this is Maserati, Cadillac, and it's all being done with some simple HTML attribute, which we'll talk about later on in the HTML part, right? Alright, so that's it, and let's get started. Okay, so we've got three files in here: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So let's start with the HTML, and I'm gonna say exclamation mark and hit tab. It gives us this boilerplate from Emmet. So set the title to search engine somehow, and then link the CSS style.css, and that's it for the head section. Alright, so the first thing in the body would be the user input. So I'm gonna say input, and it's gonna have a type of text, and there's an ID, will be the user input. Okay, so next we're gonna have a placeholder, and I'll say search. Okay, then we're gonna have a logo section. So we're gonna have a div class of logo, and then inside this div we're gonna have h1 tag, which says car gen. So it's a car search engine, so I just wanted to call it CarGen. Okay, and there's some dummy slogan in here which says your ultimate car search engine. If this makes sense. Okay, that's it for the first part. And then we're gonna have the second section would be for the content. So the content is actually the list items that goes in this page. So the list items, which are all of these brands' name. Okay, what's going on with that? Alright, that's cool. So let me just head onto this section, and it's gonna have a class of content, and inside this content we're gonna have a UL with an ID of cars. Just wanted to call it this way. So inside this UL, every list item should have a link, and each link will refer to the brand official website. So we're gonna start with the first one. Let's say LA, and then we're gonna have an anchor tag, and the first brand would be Audi. Okay, now for the link, I just got it in here. I think it's right here. Okay, I'm gonna copy and paste this link. Okay, and that's it, and that should work. So now if I save this and take a look in here, you can see this Audi. If I click on it, it will redirect me to Audi's official website. But I don't want to make it this way. I just want it to be opened in a new tab. So to do that, you just need to say target equals to underscore then blank. Okay, now if I click, that's it. You can see that it opens up a new window. Okay, for the next few items, I'm just going to copy all of them in here and paste them, because I don't think this would make sense to follow me when I'm writing all of this stuff, which is really simple and really easy to do. You know, just the same thing, changing the names and the links. And that's it. Okay, I think that's enough for the HTML, and now I think we should jump into CSS. There's a problem, there's a mistake. All right, there we go, that's cool. So now I think we should get into CSS. Okay, so the first thing, I'm gonna start with the body, and I'm gonna set the font family to Helvetica. Then set the color to light gray somehow, and there's a padding of 10px. Okay, let's take a look at this. Okay, there's no such big thing. Next up, we'll get into the input. So the input, now if we want to take the whole view width, we can just set it the display to block, so you gets the whole width. And I'm just gonna give it a width of 60%, so it gets a little bit wider. Then to center this input, we should give it a margin auto for the left and right sides. So we just say margin auto, or we're just gonna give it 5 pixels for top and bottom. Now we should save. There you go, it gets into the center of the page. Okay, and I'm gonna give it a color of white smoke, which is triple B's, and there's a font size of 20 pixel. Okay, and let's give it some round corners, so say border 5 pixel. I think border radius. Okay, that's cool. And that's it. The next thing is gonna be the logo. So we give it a class of logo. So I'm just gonna give it a dot, and I'm gonna center line everything in this logo section. So I'll say center, and then give it a color of teal, and then the font family would be, let's say Arial, and then there's a letter spacing would be 3 pixels. So we're gonna have, if we save that, if we save it, you're gonna see this, there's a bit more of space between the letters in here. So we're gonna shrink this space a little bit by setting the padding bottom of this logo to 0, then set the margin bottom to 0 as well. Anyways, so we're gonna get into the logo H1, excuse me, and I'm gonna set the cursor to pointer. So whenever we hover on this H1 tag, you can think of it as a link. Now we'll get into the UL. So first off, we'll get rid of these dots. Okay, you see all of these things. So to do that, we set list style type to none. Okay, that's it. Then we're gonna set the border to, we're gonna have a border of 1 pixel solid, and then the same color light white. It's gonna be triple B's. White smoke, I think that's white smoke. Okay, so this is for the whole container. All right, then there is no padding, would be 0, and the margin would be 3M. 1M is 16 pixel, by the way. Save. All right. Okay, and the next thing would be the list item. Okay, so now the list item shouldn't be displayed when we start searching, so we'll set the display to none. Okay, now if we set the display to none, nothing is shown, but I'm gonna comment this out for now, because we still need to apply some styles to the items, and then we'll hide it once we start writing JavaScript. Now I'm gonna move on to the anchor tag. This guy's gonna have so many things, so I'll set display to block, and to remove these underlines, where is it? Let me save this before. You see these underlines, we can get rid of this using the text decoration property and set it to none. Alright, and then set the background to light white. It's gonna be triple E's, the padding to 10px. Okay, and there's a letter spacing. Would be, I would make it like, let's say 2 pixels, for example. Okay, that's cool. Now that's better. And we're gonna have a border again, and so each list item would have a border just like that. Okay, so to do that, I'll say border and set it to 1 pixel solid white smoke. Okay, now if we save, and that's it. I'm gonna change the color to the parent color, and would say inherit, and we're gonna have a transition for the hover effect. So when we hover, we're gonna have a little background change. Okay, ease in, out. Now if we save this, that's better. Okay, that's the same, just the same thing. Okay, cool. Alright, so the rest is just the hover effect, and say a hover, come on, and set the background to white, and that's it. That's it. That should be it. Okay, you can see when we hover, the background gets changed to the white, and that's the whole thing. Okay, now I think it's it. That's it for the CSS, and let's get into JavaScript. Alright, so that's the result of CSS. So if we type something in here, say D, for example, A, it wouldn't make any difference because we haven't set anything in JavaScript, so it doesn't have any impact. Alright, so we'll first start by getting a couple of elements, which are the input and the logo. We need to get the logo because we're gonna hide it once we typed something in the input box, and this is something we're gonna make later on in JavaScript. But first off, I think we better change this to ID, and then in CSS again, I'm gonna change it the same thing. Instead of class, I'm gonna set it to ID. Right? So I'm gonna say const, and first one would be input equal document dot get element by ID, and the ID is called user input. Okay, and the second const would be the logo, and it's gonna be again document dot get element by ID logo. All right, and then we're gonna need to add an event listener to this input. So whenever the user key is up, we're gonna need to run a function which I'm calling filter brands. So I'll say input dot add event listener, which is when key is up, render this function that is called filter brands. Alright, and that's it. Now let's create the function. I'm going to say function filter brands. Okay. Alright, so we're gonna take the value given by the user in this input box, and we're going to convert it to uppercase. So I'm gonna say const filtered val, or value better, is actually equal to input dot value, and this being converted to uppercase. Okay, now we need to get all of these list items, talking about these ones that are shown in here, and make an array out of them so we can loop through it when we want to display the required items based on the user input. So I'm gonna just first bring this this array, which says const all the LIs, say document dot get elements by tag name, and all of them which has this tag name li. Now this method called getElementsByTagName will automatically create an array containing every list item in our HTML file. So as I said, once we type something in the input box, we should hide the logo, and the way we do that is by setting its display to none. Say logo dot style dot display and set it to none. Right, and that's it. Now if you try this one, I'll say A for example, it doesn't work. There is a mistake. It's being in here, the element, we should do it lowercase. Okay, that should work now. Say A, and still, what's wrong with this? I think the problem is that we don't call the script tag of our main.js file. I think that's it. We say A, and there we go. That's cool. Okay, that was funny. So now we're gonna loop through the list items, and for that I'm gonna use a for loop just to make things simple. So I'll say for let I equals to 0, and for I less than li's the length, and we'll increment by 1. Okay, now in this loop we're gonna use the anchor tag with each list item. So I'm gonna take the first anchor tag from the whole list, okay, and then I'm gonna set this line. So I'll say const a li's of I, which is the current one, okay, and then get elements by tag name, which have the anchor tag in the first one, as I said. Okay, now I'm gonna use the next line in an if-else statement that I'm going to use later on. So I'm gonna see if the text inside the anchor tag matches what's being typed in the input box. Okay, so we're gonna say a value, the value of a, and we'll see if a.inner HTML to uppercase, just to match what we did in the first one, and we'll say index of the filtered value in here. Okay, all right. Now if you're wondering why I'm using index of method, well, that's because if there is an instance of what's typed in the input box, and it's in this instance exists in any of the anchor tags, this means that this instance has an index greater than or equal to 0, or we can just say greater than -1. So if this instance matches, then we're gonna display the brands that have this instance. I know it sounds a bit confusing, but that's the way it works, in my opinion. So as I said, we're gonna check if the a value is greater than -1, and then if this is true, then we're gonna set the display of the current list item dot style dot display, and then we'll set that to block. All right, now if this is true, show me the brand. Okay, else if it doesn't match now, then we should set the display to none. Okay, else we'll say allies of I dot style dot display and set it to none. And I think this should work now. You say a gives me a, every item that has the a tag at the a letter a. If I write, for example, B, gives me the B, BA, nothing is shown, Miltley. Okay, and that's it. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this mini project. If you did, you can add so many more stuff. You can add some functionalities, so you can add some icons or the brand's logos. You can add some tooltips and much more. Okay, that's been it, and see you later.